a long story.
It's a whole thing, but there's nothing we could have done.
All day today. I tried. I was like, okay, guess it's so we'll record it and then right away and then upload it.
Sounds good.
All right. Okay, so we're recording at any time. So whenever you guys want to start.
Yeah, Haley, I think you have to kick us off, right?
Perfect. Yeah, I just want to make sure we're all good. All right, so my name is Haley Boss. I am a graduate research assistant for the Department of Public Administration. I graduated with a Bachelor's of Art in Public Policy in December of last year. And I am joined today by Dr. Kathleen Yang Clayton, the Director of Undergraduate Studies, as well as Sharon Hayes, an academic advisor for our department. And then as well as all of the students in the spring 2020 Public Policy 490 class. So we have two panels. The first panel is going to cover internships, everything about how to find them, where to look, and then also like how to find internships that are satisfying, even maybe paid rather than just kind of finding an internship to check the box. Additionally, our second panel is going to be sharing our story. How did we end up in the program? Some people were transfer students. We have some that did all 4 years at UIC. Obviously, we've had a lot of people transfer from other majors, so we'll be able to hear from everyone. And then we are also, I put up an Instagram post asking for direct messages if anyone that was following wanted us to answer specific questions. So throughout the night, we'll be collecting those and then answering them at the end. So I guess we can start panel 1 with Dr. Yang Clayton.
Cool. All right. This is exciting. So welcome everyone. This first panel is actually on internships, but the way we came up with these questions were that the students who are taking field placement 490 who are currently in internships or have been in internships came up with all these questions. So what I'm going to ask is we've got 6 panelists, Tatiana, Matt, Celeste, Daniela, Sato, and Nia. So could you guys in that order, and I can repeat it again. So Tatiana, Matt, Celeste, Daniela, Sato, and Nia. Why don't you guys just briefly introduce yourselves, what year you're in. We're going to assume that you're a public policy major, but you might have a different minor, so just share that. And the first quick question to answer is, what are some ways that you have informally networked with others and formally? So maybe if you give one example of an informal way that you've been successful networking and then a formal way. And we'll go through you guys. So Tatiana, would you be able to kick us off?
Yes. So my name is Tatiana Solis. I am a junior studying public policy. Right now I intern for the Obama Foundation, and I guess some ways that I would network with people informally was attend social networking, which means that I would see Facebook posts about, there would be networking, just casual networking where people would share their LinkedIn or, just talking about just similar interests. But some ways formally that I would network would be among student organizations, just going to school-wide events, just kind of connecting with professors. I feel like those are just the important ways where I felt like I could network. And then once you make those relationships, then you figure out, oh, hey, this person is offering an internship, or you should look on this website. So those are just some of the things those are some of the ways that I've networked.
Ooh, great, thank you. For those of you who have just joined us, just make
sure.
Oh
God, Jesus.
Hey, Jackie. Let's make sure. Go ahead and mute yourself because we're picking up some background noise from you. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. How about Matt? Why don't we go to you?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Matthew. I am a senior public policy student here at UIC. For most of my internship, I was doing veteran and.
Wait, hold on. Time out. I'm getting cross feed from someone. Did you guys hear that, or is that just me? You guys heard that?
Yeah, someone's mic was turned on. They just need to turn it off.
Yeah,
Let me exit out of my other class.
Okay, all right.
What to do.
Thanks,
Okay.
Matt.
Yeah, so I did a veteran and then campus outreach for the Bernie campaign for most of my internship. And like formally, one of the things like we did, especially with the veterans, was just like me, like going through a list of various veterans organizations and reaching out and just kind of seeing what kind of feedback I got back from them. So that was like very effective, and I connected with a lot of people who were eager to contribute either on a personal capacity or on like an organizational capacity. And I guess informally, I would just say like never burn any bridges and stay in touch with people as much as you can, because just like shooting someone a text, every couple months is a good way, I feel like, to kind of have access to everyone else's network that you've spent time building relationships with. So that's worked very well for me so far, and I think I'll keep doing that same kind of strategy.
Cool. Thanks, Matt. And I'll just interject. When you're talking about informal, you should also think about like clubs that you belong to that aren't in policy. So if you like flower arranging, or if you belong to a Veterans Affairs, or if you own dog, right? Like those are all spaces where you can practice informal networking, right? So it's good to have those interests.
Yeah.
Celeste.
Yeah, definitely. Just on like a day-to-day basis, I think it's really important to kind of look at, every interaction you have as an opportunity, definitely, that especially people who might have been in your social circle for some length of time and you maybe never contributed, or considered that as a resource available to you. So.
Cool. Thank you. Celeste, let's go to you. Don't forget to introduce yourself and contribute a little informal, formal.
Okay, hi everybody. My name is Celeste. I'm a fourth year public policy student, and I'm interning at Exelon this semester. For informal and formal networking, I would say for formal networking, definitely going to events like other people mentioned is definitely a great way to do that. But also, I love LinkedIn. Add me on there, by the way, guys. And I love just, especially old coworkers or anyone I've met at previous events. I love commenting on posts, or even like sending their post back to them with a comment to like talk directly with them. I feel like that's a more formal way to do networking. Informally, I would say, kind of like you said, different clubs on campus, and also like coffee dates with people. You can make it an informal networking, even if it seems formal to message someone and ask them to grab coffee and you end up talking about your career. It's kind of like an informal way to get into a networking space where you're both comfortable and just sipping on some lattes.
Cool. Great. Thanks, Celeste. Okay, let's go to Daniela.
Hi everyone, I'm a first year public policy student, and then how I network with people. I would say informally, like other people have said, going to events on campus, and also just talking to people like in my orgs, just what they're doing, what they're not doing, or just things they're interested as well. And then just making sure I'm keeping those connections with anybody I've like built them with. Informally, I'd say that I've reached out like through email, like if I'm interested in an organization and I'm just unsure if they have like any opportunities. I've definitely sent like several emails. And then of course like reaching out to supervisors if they have any information and just things like that.
Cool. Thank you. All right, let's go to Sado. Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Hi everyone, my name's Sato. I'm a fourth year public policy student. As far as formal and informal networking, formal, I'm gonna just sort of go along with what a lot of other people have been saying, is in reaching out through various methods, whether it be LinkedIn or email. Also, reaching out with like sort of like targeted reaches. What I would do is whenever I came across, for example, an interesting article on policy. I remember a couple of years ago, I read about something that the U of C professor did on a certain topic. involving taxes in Chicago. So I just sent them an email, said, I'm a student. This is a field of interest, and what is your take on this? And then he responded. So then that's a connect, right? So I do things like that very often, and sometimes they don't respond, and one has to learn not to take these things personally. It's just they're busy and they didn't get to it. But when they do, it's a connection. And then informal. I mean, I talk about politics and policy all the time to everybody, and you'd be amazed at how many people are like, I got a buddy who works for the city. I'll have him call somebody for you. And they work in a department that's totally unrelated to something that you want to do, but still, it you realize that you're a degree removed away from a lot of people, and quite a number can help you and are willing to help you, or at least put in a good word for you or give you a chance. So those are the two sort of, kind of reaching out, being aggressive with that, and then always talking about it and talking about what your interests are in everyday, life. That's helped me.
Yeah. No, great. Thanks, Sato. No, and I just want to double click on, I think that for maybe you guys are experiencing this now, but being a policy major is kind of a lifestyle choice. Like you don't just do it for like the 35 credits that you need and then you go back home and you don't care about policy, right? Like you find yourself going to community events that you're interested in, like education policy or in criminal justice or whatever, and it just becomes part of the fabric of your life. So often I find that with policy students that are the happiest in our program and the most engaged, it really isn't like, I'm going to stop right after my class ends. It's like they're the ones that, are emailing me about like, should I go to this meeting or what do you think about this? And I mean, it's all welcome. So it's cool. Yeah. Thanks, Sato. Nia.
Hello. My name is Nitania Fitch, but I go by Nia. I'm a public policy student, a graduating senior. I'm minoring in Earth and Environmental Sciences. And I've found that throughout my college career, the most effective means for, at least for me personally, for networking has been like the informal route. I found that my greatest resources have been like my friends, my colleagues, my professors, my teachers, my college, my Sharon, our Sharon technically, but my Sharon, and basically just the resources that are completely surrounding me, like they're very tangible things. I've done formal networking events, like even some of the formal networking events that I've gone to because of like some of the personal connections that I've had. Like I know CUPPA was, I think last year, kind of trying to get students to go to the IML, which is the Illinois Municipal League yearly conference that they have, and they gave like a reduced price for students, which was like $20 or something like that. And I found that experience was very enriching. And I feel like I got to learn a lot and meet a lot of people and attend a lot of workshops. But as far as like actually getting internships or actually, getting, it was good for networking, but as far as like things coming out of that, it wasn't as plugged in as I thought it would be. Whereas going to that event and learning the things that I learned and going back and having these conversations with the people that I knew, and I got to develop and build on those conversations, I was able to like, kind of just expand my reach and stuff like that. But
Okay.
even just like pursuing things that you're already into, as far as like clubs and things on campus, like you never know where that's going to take you or who you're going to meet through those clubs and through those activities. So
right. Oh, and I was going to just double click on something about clubs. When it comes to clubs, guys, quality matters. Okay, so don't go signing up for 15 clubs and then you just went to a couple of meetings kind of situation. First of all, you're wasting your time. Like at the beginning, sure, like you're trying to find your passion, your fit, but eventually you just want to drill down into one or two clubs and actually do stuff, right? Learning and building and all that. So you don't need 100 clubs. You just need like a couple that you're actually going to really like being in. Just for sake of equity, let's go in reverse direction. So we'll start with Unia, and then Sado, Daniela, Celeste, Matt, and Tatiana. The next question that I have down here is, how did you find your internship? This should be a good one.
So I actually, again, it was from like internal kind of connections. So my friend, Joshawn Bowens, I think he was like the president of undergrad student government maybe last year. And he was talking to me about his VP, which was, she was doing an internship with IPSI, and which is the Institute for Policy and Civic Engagement at UIC, and how she's doing a fellowship with them, the Urban Public Policy Fellowship. And I applied for that, and they ended up placing me with my internship site with the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus. So it was very organic in a sense. So that's kind of how I found my internship with them. But I actually started another internship towards the end of this semester with the Environmental Law and Policy Center. And I found that internship through the course that I'm taking with the Freshwater Lab with Professor Haverlock. And that's kind of like another placement that I found because of kind of just having that interaction with her and talking to her about my interests and things. And she kind of just found that that would be a great placement for me, which is something that I wanted to do with them anyway. So yeah, that's kind of how I found my internships.
For me personally, I was a first year, so I was, oh shoot, I think Sato's going. I'm so sorry. I thought it was my turn next. You can go.
Okay. Yeah, so for me, the way that I got mine was, it relates to the first question actually, is I interned with the Civic Lab, which is a small not-for-profit here in Chicago that deals with TIFs and how it has a negative economic impact in terms of equity in Chicago. And so what I did was I had a list of places that I would have liked, that I'd like to, I thought to myself, okay, where would I like to intern at? Like what institutions can I learn from? And so I had made a list, and I had gotten to, I was just kind of going through it and emailing people and say, hey, do you need an intern? Would you like to intern? Could I intern for you? Would you guys, want somebody to do some free work for you? And I was emailing people from the Public Banking Institute out in California, and I was seeing if I could do something kind of like remotely for them, and they were trying really hard to get me a gig with them, and they couldn't. But they said, hey, we got somebody new on our board, and they're in Chicago, and they linked me in, and it was Tom Tresser, and he's with Civic Lab, and I ended up interning with him. So it was just that whole idea of like reaching out, being proactive, like where do I want to intern at, and kind of going and just asking, and it worked out for me.
I think I'm next. So how I got my internship was before my internship at the Barack Obama Foundation has a community leadership corps, which is like a 6-month program where they give you like basically $1,000 to commit to a community project. So I did that in Pilsen, my neighborhood. And basically what I did was I gave a bunch of like scarves, hats, and gloves to like a bunch of community members. And I was following their Instagram page when my program was done in November. And they had said like, oh, we're looking for Chicago and DC interns if you're interested. So I applied. So they had a bunch of different internships. I applied to their community engagement internship, and it was just a lengthy process, but I ended up getting the internship, and that's how I got my internship, and that's where I am right now.
That's great. Wait, did we get through everyone? Sorry, I had to go yell at my kids. Wait, Matt? Did I see Matt? Or he might have dropped off. Some of us are going to have some connection problems. Did we hit everyone else though?
I'll finish up really quick.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm a first year, so before I got to campus, I was really interested in, like, I chose UIC because of the diversity on campus. So I was really interested in working more with students and things like that. So I looked into each of the centers, the cultural centers on campus, and I just asked for more information if they had any opportunities for like internships and whatnot. And actually at the Latino Cultural Center where I'm interning now, they sent me like more information and a link to apply to an internship, and that's exactly what I did.
That's great. Wait, this is your first year? Okay, Daniela. That's
Yeah.
so wait, so for some of you who might be watching this afterwards and you're like, wait, why are first years doing a 490? I mean, we do have there's two potential reasons. Like one is that we have some first years who are coming in who have had a lot of community-based experience, or they just know exactly where they want to start interning and building up that internship track record. We also have a lot of transfer students who are not what we call non-traditional students and really prepared to take that next step with that professionalization. So they kind of come in and hit the ground running. So how about one more set of questions, right? So one was, how did you find your internship, which you guys answered. But how about, when did you know where you wanted to intern? Like, what resources did UIC offer? Like, what did you draw on? Like, what was the conversation you had with, Sharon or a professor? Or how did you know that this internship or this type of internship is what you wanted to do? Yeah.
I just wanted to comment. I think that the structure of the public policy classes is really helpful. I know that just in the classes I've taken with Clayton, I know that the nonprofit class I took with her, we were exposed to, I think, 2 different nonprofit organizations. She mentioned a third, all of which I believe were accepting interns. I've also, through different classes, had exposure to the Chai Hack Night, and they do some partnering with nonprofits, and they do interns as well, I believe. And just the structure of the classes really ensures that you get exposed to people who want interns. So worst case scenario, that you have at least something. It might not be exactly what you want, but there is always something for you.
That's actually really great. And Matt, I see you're back on. Did you drop off before you could answer the second question I posed? You're still muted.
Oh, sorry. I didn't drop off. I'm sorry. I have 2 classes right now, so I've been switching back and forth.
All right. I just want to make sure that I included everyone. So, to Haley's point, and I know I just asked, like, how did you know what the fit is? Let's make it a little more interesting, right? Like, I'm sure that there were some internships or some placements where you're like, am I really going to learn something from this placement? Or what are some of the things that you learned to pick up on when people were telling you about internships, or in internship descriptions, that helped you distinguish between internships where you felt like you were going to really learn something versus others where you're like, not so much? How about that? That might be a little more.
Asking what the turnover rate is. I've done a few different internships, and if there's a high turnover, then it might not be the best situation. But if they have interns that join and stay and end up working as full-time staff, that's definitely a sign of a really good organization.
That's okay. Why don't you guys on the panel just raise your hands if you want to, like, just jump in? Like, we don't have to go in order anymore. Like, that's a really great. Okay, Sato, I see you have your hand up. Go ahead. Oh, you're on mute.
What I would do is I would ask people, where that have interned, where did you intern and what did you do? And that sort of helped me narrow it down. Like in terms of UIC resources, like what helped me was just going through all the classes and paying attention to kind of what really moved me, like where do I fit in public policy? And I really dig economic policy. That's what gets me the most excited. That's what gets me the angriest. I'm doing all this economic lit studies on my own. Like, I'm watching economic videos late at night just to kind of get that really strong grasp of that. And so I got that. And then in terms of interning, I'd ask people, what are you doing? Well, if going into some sort of like politician's office and answering phones would have fulfilled the task, the requirement, right? I interned with somewhere and it was politically related, but that's not, that's not what I want to do. I want to do economic research and economic policy specifically. So if there was somebody that was open, like, okay, well, if you come here, he'll let you do like run numbers and kind of do research, then that'll work out. And so I was able to find those spots that allowed me to do research on economic policy, and that helped. But it was, again, knowing, what you're passionate about, and then knowing how to target it and talking to people and asking, getting information, like, where'd you intern? What was it like? What did you do? What did you think of it, et cetera? That helped me.
Great. Okay. How about one of the other, Matt, go ahead.
Sure. I would say it's important to be alert for like ambiguous language and advertisements and stuff for these internships, so you're not, a lot of times people will just be trying to get a free or low paid grunt, to do, just kind of general office work, or not what, you have set out to do an internship, to gain an actual skill or experience in what you're interested in. And I would also just not, if you find yourself in that position, don't feel like you have to stay there. You can sit down with somebody and be like, hey, I took this internship because I wanted to gain, more experience in public policy, not just so I could get coffee or make, copies or whatever have you. And if that doesn't work, just leave. Don't feel like you have to stay somewhere that's not what you agreed to do initially.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so even if it's somewhere where you're not necessarily sure if you're set on, I think it's also worth going in and, kind of just having the experience, because I know when I started with the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus, I was interested in them because I kind of saw what their track record was. I saw like the different projects that they had on their website. Like they had a very, their website was like very well put together, and you can kind of just see like the different things that they've done once you've Googled them. So I was very much interested in like kind of just learning from whatever it was that they had to offer, because I think almost, I don't want to say every internship, but I think every experience has something to offer, something to, gain from. And I saw that they had things specifically that I was interested, because I knew what my criteria was. Like when I was looking for an internship, I knew that I needed something that was, one, going to meet the requirements for graduation. I also wanted something that was obviously relevant to public policy, relevant to my specialization, which is environmental policy. And it had all of those different things. So I was definitely open to pursuing it. And once I got there, I feel like I learned a lot on the job. But I think one of the greatest things that I got to experience was having such a great supervisor and being able to like really interact with Brian Tompkins, and like learning a lot from him and learning a lot from the other individuals that actually work there. Because even though it's not necessarily, where I want my career to go to, maybe that's not like my career goal is to work for, just the MMC. I feel like I learned a lot and I met a lot of really good people there, and it was an amazing experience in itself. And then on top of that, some of the different projects that we did, we worked with other nonprofits, and I got to meet people from the ELPC, which is really the internship that I really wanted to have. So I got to meet them, and when I actually had like my kind of like my what do they call it? Well, I'll call it my training. When I had my training, it was virtual because of COVID, but when I had my kind of virtual training with them, and I told them that I interned with the MMC, they were like, oh, and do you know this person? And do you know this person? And we worked with her. And I'm like, yeah, I know her. I did. I had all of these different things. So we had a lot to talk about. And I find that, even though the internship itself may not be completely, what you want, or completely ticking all of your boxes, if it ticks, some major points, it may be worth, looking into, and you may gain some things that you didn't necessarily set out to achieve or accomplish.
Cool. Thanks, Nia. Okay, we got a few more. Daniela, Celeste, Tatiana, do we call on you, or you? Okay, we got Daniela. I see your hand.
I'm definitely still trying to figure that out a little bit, just because I'm a first year and I'm still like getting into internships and whatnot. But I think that one thing that really makes me want to do the internship is their mission and like what they're doing like to serve the community, the people that they're working with. But yeah, I definitely consider their mission is really, really important. And also like getting to know the people, as I think Nia said, that that's super important, like getting to know the people and like if I even want to work with them, like supervisors, like what their interests are and like just seeing what they genuinely care about is always important to me as well.
So, I mean, for those of you who have taken my nonprofits class, you've heard me rant and rave about this, but you know, the reality is that the mission of nonprofits, I mean, really like salt of the earth, they are there fighting for all the right things and everything. Not a lot of nonprofits are known for their like excellent managerial skills or onboarding interns or management of interns. Okay, so don't be surprised. Like, don't take it personally. Definitely to, you know, I don't know who said that, but they don't take it personally. You know, but and also recognize that, you know, if you aren't getting what you need, that is a sign you're not going crazy. Okay, like don't let them gaslight you too, right? But sometimes it's not intentional because they're running around and trying to keep families together or from being deported or helping somebody file like for like electricity assistance. I mean, it's like all over the place. So you got to kind of balance those two things out. I have Tatiana and Celeste left.
Yeah, I'll go next. I think what helped me find out like what like internships were realistic or not for me is I know for a fact that I needed something that was gonna pay me. Like there was no way that I could work somewhere that wasn't gonna pay me. So I think just being realistic with yourself. Like I know a lot of people feel like, oh, I need an internship, I need something on my resume. But if you're gonna work at like a nonprofit or somewhere that's not gonna pay you, there's definitely been internships where they want you full time but don't pay you. Like just don't put yourself through that if you know you need the money, just for one, because I know that there's just been a lot of internships that I want but they're not going to pay you, and I knew realistically I was not going to be happy there regardless if I felt like my resume needed that or not. So just being realistic with yourself, just going over your priorities, you know, just seeing what's manageable and not, and then also just doing your research as well. Like I know, with my internship with the Obama Foundation, I know that, you know, they're like widely known. So, you know, the Obamas are really big. So I knew that the internship was going to be legit. But then also for my position, I also reached out to a woman who was in the internship a semester before me and just seeing like how legit was it, you know, was I going to be like, you know, getting coffee or was I going to be doing legit work? So just doing your research, just going over what your priorities are. I would just say those are the main two things on finding like a successful internship for yourself, because it doesn't really matter what everyone else is doing. It only matters about what you're doing and what you need.
Cool, cool. All right. Well, I mean, Celeste, I want to give you a chance to add another pearl of wisdom, unless you're, I mean, you're on mute, so.
Yeah, I was just gonna say mine's kind of straightforward and to the point. I knew I wanted to work in a specific sector. I wanted to do corporate social responsibility work, so I sought out corporations in Chicago, and an energy utility was right up my alley and kind of the sector I wanted to work in. So I applied for internships there and got one. So that's kind of just, it's very straightforward and to the point. Knew what I wanted to do, applied for it, and that's kind of how I found my internship.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's great. Well, listen, I'm gonna do one more round, and this should be like, I'm wrapping it up. So I think we talked about this question. I really liked it. So imagine yourself 3 years ago, or 4 years ago, or 2 years ago. What's one thing you would like to say to yourself 2 or 3 years ago to encourage yourself, or be like, don't do that, or go and do more of that, like whatever it is, right? Like just, you could throw yourself in a time machine and just 3 years ago say something to yourself. What would it be? And you know what? And I just want to point out for Zoom, if you go down to the bottom, there's actually a little reactions or manage participants. I forgot. I think you can clap. You can literally raise your hand, right off to the side under participants. So I see Haley's raised her hand, and then we'll go to Tatiana. So let's go to Haley first.
Yeah, I just wanted to, excuse me, I just wanted to chime in and say that, you know, it is important to find a good internship placement, but also finding one, like I believe it was Tatiana that said, that is realistic. Understanding your balance. I really struggled with my last semester of college just because I had a part-time job. I'm a licensed massage therapist, and so I did that part-time. I also had, you know, my internship going on, trying to obviously get as many hours for as long as I could with that. And then obviously just finishing up and trying to graduate some of the harder policy classes, such as 405. I struggled with that class more than I should have. But just understanding your own time constraints, because, you know, when midterms, when finals hit, you know, those things really start to add up, and you don't want to, you know, you don't want to be someone that calls in all the time. You don't want to, you know, not show up. You know, you don't want to do anything that would kind of damage your professional career before it started. So just being aware of, you know, realistically, what can you manage?
Great, great. Okay, well, I mean, one message. Okay, that was Haley weighing on the last one. Tatiana, why don't you go ahead?
If I were to talk to myself 3 years ago, I would just say that everything happens for a reason. You know, everything's gonna be okay. You know, don't compare yourself to others, because I was in community college while all my friends were in 4-year universities, and I was constantly comparing myself. But it doesn't really as I said again, like, doesn't really matter what everyone else is doing. It only matters what you're doing, and you need to focus on yourself. So, you know, just, you know, obviously you want to find an internship, obviously you want to be doing those things, being active, but at the same time, you know, don't like press on yourself just because things are not going your way. And I truly believe that everything happens for a reason. So, you know, it's gonna happen.
Right. That's lovely. That's great. That's a very good piece of advice. All right. How about any of the other panel members?
I'll go. One thing that I could have told myself, I can think of so many different things. I think I'll start with like study abroad sooner. Like like if you can, and I'm telling you, students can, like, don't doubt yourself. You can study abroad, but please go ahead and study abroad. You can also get internships abroad. I'm a huge advocate for that. And I think it literally changes your perspective on a lot of different things. I think at least my first experience studying abroad made me realize what I really wanted to do as far as my career was. Because before I was an earth and environmental science major, and I knew what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to do like advocacy work. I knew I wanted to do like things revolving the environment, but more so advocacy. And I thought, let me go into EAS because I don't want to be one of those policy people who doesn't know what they're talking about. And that's why I started off there. And I was not necessarily happy. I felt like I had purpose, but I wasn't happy where I was. And then I remember like over winter break, kind of just like sitting down and doing my research. And I'm like, I am in the wrong college. I need to be in CUPPA. Let me like reach out to like one of the advisors, met Sharon, and then kind of like started working on studying abroad and found a program that basically made me realize that yes, CUPPA is definitely where I need to be. Like international studies, multilateral diplomacy, the stuff that they worked about was definitely like correlating to policy itself and advocacy. And I was like, okay, if this is what the study abroad program is about, then I definitely know that this college is where I need to be, and kind of just learning what I need to learn here is definitely where I need to be. And it's more so like not just the program, but the people that I met on the program. And they were like poli-sci students, public policy students, public administration students, like, oh my God, what are econ students? And it's like you sit down and they're like all these students from all across like the United States, and you get to talk with them about things that you actually care about, and you learn from each other, and you're just like kind of just like gassing each other up to go ahead and pursue what it is that you're truly like interested in. And it's like having like this huge encouraging feeling. And I know that that meant a lot for me. And helped me like focus on what it was that I wanted. So
Thanks.
I think students should do that.
Yes. Study abroad.
Study
Wait,
abroad.
Sato, is that you waving at me? Is that okay? Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just, I'll double up on what the last two speakers said. Definitely think about balance, whether it be, work, school balance, school life balance, whatever it is. Like, don't bite off more than you can chew. I definitely did that a couple of times and I regret it. Also, take internships early and often. I wish I knew you could take them earlier than senior year. For some reason, I just had it in my head like, oh, it's like something you do just before you leave college. It's like, oh man, I could have been building all this experience and making extra connections and networks prior to this. And what I'll add on top of those two things that were already said is to think of the end game as soon as possible. Like, what is that going to be for you? Are you seriously considering grad school? Do you seriously want, I really want to work here, I want to work there, or whatever it is, but plan that ahead. As soon, I think around September, I was like, oh man, I'm done with school. What am I going to do? And so, I kind of figured it out pretty quickly, but I wish I would have, thought about that a little earlier. Like, what kind of place do I want to land at? Who has landed there? What do they do to get there? And then reverse engineer it. But so, as soon as possible, start thinking about like, what's after college? Is it grad school? Is it working for the government? Is it working nonprofit? Where do you want to work? Where do you want to land? And thinking about that as soon as possible, and then taking those steps and making notes. That's what I had to add.
Great. Thanks, Sato. Okay, so 3 years, you're in a time capsule. Daniela, Celeste, Matt, we're coming to the end of our 45 minutes. So I see Celeste has undone her mute button. I'm going to teach all of you how to raise your hands on after we debrief, because you're going to have to learn this. Zoom is going to be part of our lives, okay? Celeste, go ahead.
I was just gonna kind of go off of what other people said relating to like work-life balance and figuring that out. I would not put so much pressure on myself because some of my most valuable things I learned were in internships and real life experiences like that, and not necessarily in the classroom. So to kind of not put so much pressure on yourself in either area, it could be the exact opposite for somebody. If they're learning more in the class and not their internship, that they feel kind of pressured to put so much effort into either one of them. So just not put so much pressure on yourself and just kind of try and go with the motions and learn as much as you can.
Great. Awesome. Daniela or Matt, I think Daniela, I see your mic is on. Go for it.
Yeah, I would say not to put so much pressure on myself as well. And also just even if I feel like I'm not qualified enough, still apply. Like you don't know what's gonna happen yet, so you might as well give it a try and like then you'll see what happens. Like I think someone else said everything happens for a reason. So if you're placed there, it'll work out, and if not, it just wasn't meant to be.
That's awesome. And Matt might be in his other class, or no, here he is. Okay. All right. 3 years ago, Matt, what's the message you would send to yourself?
I would say, what really helped me, and I had some internship offers after I'd already gotten engaged with the Bernie stuff, but just kind of for internships, like numbers is a important aspect. Like just getting yourself out there to a big enough, audience of people, because that's what it takes a lot of the time. Just your resume might have just gotten slid away or for whatever reason, but just persistence and yeah, just not giving up. And yeah, you might not get your first choice, but just kind of really staying on that and staying in touch with people even after an initial interaction. That's my advice.
That's awesome. And, I want to definitely end on time. I think one of the common threads, and I just, I don't want to speak for everyone, but, not being hard on yourself, finding the right fit, it really is about finding like what blows your hair back. What are you passionate about? What are you going to wake up in the morning and be like, I want to read about that, or I want to go to class on that, or I want to do my internship.